Welcome to the resolution.
All right, we are live, and thanks for joining us for the inaugural episode of Welcome to the Resolution, a tax resolution cast geared to helping folks gain a better understanding of issues regarding back taxes, unfiled returns, and a resolution of debt. Before we go any further, let me just say this cast is brought to you by Washington Tax Services. We are a tax resolution company, been in business for 30 plus years out of Seattle, Washington, and we help people nationwide with their tax issues. You can find us at watax.com or call us at 1-888-282-4697. You can always email us through the website as well. You just go to the contact page on that page. That's an easy way to get in touch as well. This is our new podcast. We're calling it Welcome to the Resolution. And kind of want to just give people some information about what we do here, what they might call in for, or topics of interest around sort of tax resolution. Pretty much we delve into one main topic each episode. This one seems like a good start would be, what do you think, Jay?
The history of the tax relief industry.
Seems like a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where Washington tax fits in that history.
Cool. Why don't we kind of just introduce ourselves a little bit? I'm Stuart. I'm a tax consultant here. I might be somebody, if you were to call into us, who would kind of maybe do a preliminary diagnosis of, an issue that somebody might have, ask a few questions, do a little basic interview, see how we might actually help. That's kind of my role at this company. Jay, what about you? What are your credentials? You're kind of more senior than I, so I want to...
My name's Jay Freeborne, and I am a licensed enrolled agent. I've been working in the tax resolution and tax relief industry for 22 years, almost 23. And I represent clients before the IRS and the state. I also provide customer service and analysis to you, the customer, be you an individual or a business. And I also am a Renaissance man and help out in all aspects of the business here.
Cool.
And now I'm even a podcaster.
And now a podcaster.
Add it to my list.
Add it to the resume. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, that's a good way to start. Let's go to our main topic. We're talking tax relief. The history of tax relief industry, right?
Yeah, good.
That's what we want to go with this first episode. I think that's a cool
Sure.
way to start the thing off. What do you want to start with? Like just the origins of the tax industry?
Well, yeah, sure. The whole idea of the tax relief industry is really, it's like a marketing idea that was placed on something that had been practiced for years. That is, enrolled agents, CPAs, and tax attorneys representing people before the IRS or state agencies, which they had been doing for years. People that needed tax help would, go look up a tax attorney and say, hey, man, hey, lady, I need help representing in this tax problem. Do you offer that service? And yeah, I offer that service. And so what happened in the late 80s or mid 80s is, marketing people came up with a jingle, and that was, hey, settle your debt with the IRS,
This is before internet, though. I mean, this isn't just...
Yeah, this is before the internet. It is before the internet.
Based on internet.
Yeah. And it's just a purely American kind of thing, a marketing concept that finds, that brands something that had been happening for a long time. That is CPAs, enrolled agents, and tax attorneys representing people, right? Well, a purely American phenomenon, But, it was a great jingle. And that is before the internet. It was, send out mailers to people with tax liens.
Just like cold call mailing?
Cold call mailing. So first it was tax lien mailing, and that was something that Washington Tax Services back in the late 80s started, as well as some other folks. And in those mailers, saying, hey, maybe you can settle your debt. And then after that was tax lien callers, And that was more of a 90s thing that started in the 90s in Colorado. I think Colorado was the original tax relief companies that started doing that. And then television, Ronnie Deutsch in California.
Kind of late night TV kind of thing.
Yeah, cable TV.
Advent of cable. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. American Tax Relief became a huge player in that, and we'll get into that, maybe that history in a bit. But really, it's a marketing idea that intersected with something that has been done for years. And the origins are, it was as a national phenomenon that had a huge steroid injection in the Southern California market, starting with the proliferation of tax relief companies down there.
Is it just sort of an accident of location, or was there a reason for?
Well, I actually personally did a stint working for a tax relief company in Southern California in the late 90s. And myself and some other folks, we came down there with the knowledge that we have from Washington Tax to assist a company down there. That company was the information that small company, which was called Capital Tax Relief, was actually the intellectual property, if you will, of that company was taken by a guy named Alex Hahn, who started American Tax Relief, which became a huge phenomenon on television mostly, and later was closed down by the Attorney General, or actually the FTC, and I'm glad to say, and $15 million in Alex Hahn and his family's estate was liquidated to pay victims. I'm very glad that happened. I actually wrote about that on our blog for many years. But that's the end. If this is a narrative, that was the end of the narrative. Before they run credits.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
The assets seized, the victims paid. But American Tax Relief was a huge player in that. And then Tax Masters, also a egregious, abusive company based in Houston, Texas, that stole more or less money from victims. Texas Attorney General shut them down. J.K. Harris in South Carolina, which had satellite offices all around the U.S., also poorly served their customers and became subject to Attorney General complaints around the country. J.K. American, Ronnie Deutsch, shut down by California. Ronnie Deutsch, Tax Masters, American Tax Relief. Those are the big four scams that happen in the tax relief industry.
So is it just like the legal industry catching up to these guys? Or what was it that changed?
Changed? Well, I mean, if you look at if we're going to give this kind of a timeline, marketers got on to this idea. Okay, we can settle debts to the IRS. And then the marketers proliferated, entering TV markets, radio markets. You see them on cable TV all the time. And then the lack of service to these big companies provided people, and the disingenuousness they had talking to clients, saying they'll qualify for settlement when they didn't, eventually caught up with them. FTC, attorney generals pretty much shut them down. It was like, for those of us that are dedicated to honesty and good customer service, that Washington Tax, of course, embodies our ethics, our morals, why we've been around for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, this company's been around for, 30?
30 years, 1989.
I mean, through all of that.
Right.
To present. So.
Yes. And while we were in that ride of demand in the 90s, and Washington Tax did become a big company and actually had a few salespeople that acted in that scandalous way, they got corrected and they were chastened by management here. The bottom line is the reason Washington Tax has persisted for 30 years is people that have ethics and integrity that have been a part of this company that have said, hey, we're not going to do this the wrong way. We're going to do this the right way. And I think that is really one of the main reasons why this company has persisted. We were started by an entrepreneur named Don Stengel, who was a great entrepreneur, and he created a solid business with WATAX. I would say when he invented the company, he wasn't like ethics first. I mean, that wasn't his mission statement. But I would say from the people that he hired, including myself, I mean, I was hired in 1997, there are a number of us that decided we're going to do this right. And we create our own mission statement, if you will. And that's, why we've persisted. Now, back to the geography of this, you could read our blog, watax.com /blog, which has been around for 11 years and has been writing about the tax relief industry that whole time. In fact, we were ahead of a lot of these stories. American Tax Relief going down, Tax Masters, J.K. Harris. If you can go back to blog posts in 2008, 9, and 10, that kind of precipitated those companies getting shut down.
We still have them all archived on there.
Yeah, they're still there. On our we have a graveyard of tax relief list on that blog.
Right.
And the interesting stat is, I think there's like 120 closures that we documented. 50% of them in Southern California.
That's crazy.
60 companies in Orange County, San Diego, Los Angeles closed down. So what's missing from the DNA pool of tax relief down there are people of ethics. And I think there's just bad juju, bad DNA down there. The culture down there is problematic. Now, there are some good eggs down there who we list on our blog and we're friendly with, but boy, that is a bad stat.
On the blog site, I mean, we try and provide a lot of information and education, and I love two of the most popular posts are those ones of the shuttered companies and then the other companies that are still around today and which are recommended or graded. I think that provides people with a useful avenue to move forward if they are, if they have resolution issues or back tax issues.
One thing that, just one little evolution of the blog that should be noted is we used to have a list of the bad companies, but for us, a business to speak ill about our competitors in that way legally had some problems. So we stopped that bad list and we just basically create a list where people could look at the Better Business Bureau to see if the companies were reputable. But I think, to circle back to the history, all of those shutdowns in the late 2007 through 2012 really did chasten people in this industry. You don't see the egregious abuse that you did then, but there still is. There is one company, which I'm not going to mention, based in Virginia, that basically did the model of J.K. Harris to the T, that is going to trial against the Virginia Attorney General in September. The trial date's September of 2020. The trial date's finally set. Those guys are, I think, one of the last standing of the really bad, egregious companies. And I'm just not going to name them. You can Google them yourself. But, one of the largest companies in the United States that has tax relief in its name, based in the Southern California area, also is vulnerable to scrutiny based on their size. But, everybody's got to watch to be honest to your customers about what you can deliver. What
citizen themselves has to be wary that those scams and things are still out there. There's still companies that you definitely will want to do your research on as far as that goes.
I think one good rule of thumb is how long you've been in business. I really trust my competitors that have been doing this for 10 years plus. But also, enrolled agents, CPAs, and attorneys have ethical obligations to their customers. Circular 230, which is the guidebook for ethics the IRS requires people to be compliant with. If an enrolled agent, a CPA, and attorney, it has their name and license out there on their power of attorney that you sign, you should feel some safety in that because they don't want to lose their license.
Sure.
But fly-by-night companies, big ad jingles that you see, they're usually come out of Southern Cal, sometimes Florida. I take them with a grain of salt. I'm the guy that's been compiling the closed list.
Be wary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the guy that made the graveyard of tax relief, which now is 120 companies. And I know how easily you can go to the graveyard. But it's been an interesting run. And you know what? It's so much easier to do the right thing. And Washington Tax is proof of that. We're not greedy. We've done well. Perhaps we sacrificed perhaps some extra sales that we could have got for lying. But it's just a good long-term recipe in any business to have some ethics.
Have you seen it change then? So we were talking about like through the cable, late night TV. I mean, did the tax relief industry change with the advent of the internet, or how have you seen it change? Or with emailing, or versus that cold calling of that's a good question.
I mean, in one sense, Washington Tax, we abandoned our tax lien mailing model, which, by the way, we did ethically. We would just send letters to people at tax liens offering our help to them.
Sure. Yeah.
But it no longer was really effective. People thought the leads that we got from that were really poor because they're like, why is this people sending me a letter?
Yeah.
And so our model actually flipped. We're like, let's have people find us. Let's do some YouTube videos and now this podcast, and let's write a blog. Let's advertise on Google Ads. Let's have people vet us first.
You're not reaching out to them; they're coming to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So we sacrificed some of the volume that we got from those lien letters back in the day, but we get a quality client list. People trust us before they talk to us. They've checked us out. They know we've been in biz for 30 years. Our website, WATAX.com, is really appealing to people because we give a lot of free information. People can kind of sense that we have ethical behavior. But anyway, to answer your question, in 2011, we just gave that up and said, let's just go to the blog and our website to get clients. The internet, has created a whole bunch of rusted out satellite websites by crappy little companies that never really took this business seriously. And there are some great websites out there, and we have a list of competitors that we really honor and value. Their marketing is great. Their service is great. We actually commend a couple companies on our blog. I think the internet in some ways has kind of ferreted out, what kind of quality information are you going to put out there to the public to show that you're real? And, I think we're proud of the quality of content that we give. Others that don't, hopefully the customer can see, is this just an ad jingle, or are they going to actually give me some intelligent information about tax relief and resolving my tax problem,
Yeah.
One thing's for sure, and on the same topic is, the Better Business Bureau is valuable. If we ever had a customer that was upset with us, we would encourage them to go to the BBB, in which you have to negotiate, they're
like an intermediary.
Almost. Yeah, an intermediary. Yeah. But the BBB, particularly in Southern California, is just really grade inflated. People get A+, but have 5 complaints a month. I don't know if that's ever going to get fixed. I think the BBB is very regional and has different cultures, whereas our BBB, if we had 3 complaints in a month, our A+ rating would go to A- pretty quick.
Is the BBB like a bureaucratic? It's not a government agency portion, is it?
I think it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit.
I think it's a nonprofit, but they do sell accreditation. Okay. Which, I'll disclose it fully here. We pay like $750 annually to have accreditation, which is kind of
it's a bit of an ad, more or less.
Yeah, but if you aren't not exhibiting good behavior, they can revoke the accreditation.
So it's kind of a stamp.
Yeah. But both Colorado and Southern California, in my experience, have really great inflated BBB records. So I sometimes when I have recommended people that are checking out tax relief companies, they should look at the amount of complaints and how the complaints are addressed more than the grade. because
Yeah,
they show the responses.
Sure, and the speed in which they've responded, if there was a response at all.
Right. And I've been tracking tax relief companies for about 12 years since I started the blog. And I can say that when BBB complaints aren't responded to, that's the first sign that a company is about to close.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And so what happens is the BBB record goes from A+ to C, and then it says the reason for the grade going down that they explain is BBB complaints not responded to, and then the next step is you're out of business.
Straight to
120 in,
yeah.
But anyway, the BBB is still has some value for the transparency of complaints, but the grades
not as much
are ridiculous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see like the future of this kind of industry, or what are you seeing today that you're noticing as trends as far as technology moving ahead, or the way in which the IRS works? Is that are we seeing differences? I mean, that changes as far as the funding of the IRS and things like that, and I would imagine that affects
I think
the companies that interact with the IRS.
Well, I'll address a couple things. The right of representation will never go away. People will always want to have a third party in between them and the IRS or a state agency. And so the need for representation, regardless of artificial intelligence or AI progressing, will always be there. So there will always be a role for enrolled agents and attorneys and CPAs to play to help mitigate a tax problem. And of course, Democrats or Republicans are going to need revenues for the federal government. So the IRS will always be there to collect. Perhaps they'll even rebrand the IRS so it's not like a boogeyman and call it the Federal Debt Reduction Agency or something. But there's so many nuances to representation on tax problems that really quality people that Washington Tax embodies are needed to resolve tax problems. We're always changing and flexing and keeping our continuing education credits in and learning and expanding our institutional knowledge. But we see a role for ourselves going forward as long as that need for third-party representation is there. And I don't see that ever going away.
I mean, we have a staff of enrolled agents and CPAs.
And I'm an enrolled agent.
And you are an enrolled agent. And we have other staff as well who work on if anybody was to call in or email to us, they meet up with a team that would consist of someone like a consultant like myself, some people who are an enrolled agent
or an attorney
who would lead their case, and then a staff that would assist that agent. Or is that something that someone should expect from any company, or is that
Well, everybody has their their secret sauce, and we're not going to disclose way too much of that. You can read about that in the blog, but one of the keys to our secret sauce is research. We research every client's record to really get a big picture of their case, what they owe, what years they need to file, when their debts expire, and we're big believers that if resolving a case is like building a house, doing the research is laying the floor, putting the trusses down, and without it, we can't build a house. So
is that something that you should, as I'm just thinking of as a person, as a consumer, If someone's not researching their history, to me that would seem like
it's a red flag,
a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
If they're just like, you've got some back tax, I'll just take care of that. Let's just
I've written there is a blog post about this that I've wrote a year or two ago about what you should expect if you're going to pay the largest company with the word tax relief in the United States.
Yeah.
They charge a research fee of $695, at least the last I heard. And then after that research is done, they upsell the client for other services, often at a very exorbitant price. But, that blog post, I say, what you should know about research. I mean, what you should get for $695.
What research?
Right. And by the way, Washington Tax does research for clients just for a small research fee in some cases. Mm-hmm. And by the way, our research fees are between $250 and $500. But what value should you expect for that research? And what I've found is that largest company with the words tax relief in its name in Southern California is they learn very little except stuff that the sales rep will use to make the sale. And that is, where do you stand with the IRS? Some of these cases are not in collections, mm-hmm. right? So any action that you take is voluntary, or an insurance policy, so you prevent future scrutiny from the IRS. But they don't find out when their debts expire, which is something you need to find out, what you owe, where you stand in the collection process, what years are unfiled, and all of your wage and income transcripts. That is what you should get from research. And
so research definitely, I mean, it can mean different things for different companies.
But what I'm saying is that company that I mentioned isn't giving that thorough list.
Right.
Let's also add something. The IRS is somewhat underfunded. They're limited in what cases they're going to be aggressive with. That is liens and levies and garnishments. And, a lot of these quote unquote tax relief companies kind of play the fear card. Oh my gosh, if you don't do this, you're going to be in big trouble with the IRS, which is a not easy sell, but it's disingenuous.
Fear factor.
Yeah, exactly. The IRS is not aggressive on a lot of cases. So our approach with customers is straightforward. Look, the IRS is probably not going to lien or levy you for most cases. But you might want to get ahead of the 8 ball because we've got $1 trillion annual deficit now. The IRS is getting $119 million extra funding this year, bipartisan. And they need to close that gap. So you never know is really what we tell our customers. But we're not going to fake an existential crisis now. We don't do that. We don't play that card. Hey, I need $10,000 to do this case. The IRS is going to really come after you. That is BS, people, in most cases. Mm-hmm. Now, if your case is assigned to a revenue officer, that's a real deal. They can levy and lien you. And if you're in automated collection systems, that is kind of the real deal. The ACS, or automated collection systems, is aggressive, but sometimes not. Research is our brand, really. And in fact, that's what we say in our website, you've done your research, now let's solve your tax problem. And when we solve your tax problem, we're doing research. Mm-hmm. I think the best practitioners in the United States make that their mantra.
Kind of a similar template.
Yeah, that's our secret sauce. But we're not going to give any more secrets today.
Do you got anything else you want to touch on as far as history of tax relief? Or and we've talked about the blog, and maybe, that's definitely a place where people, if they're interested in further information or getting deeper into things, they can certainly
WATAX.com/blog, or it's at the bottom link, tax resolution blog, at the bottom of the webpage. No, I think this is a good history for now. The bottom line is representation. Enrolled agent CPA tax attorney can be extremely valuable. Trust us. We've had thousands and thousands of customers that have gone through our company that have had success. But getting bad representation is worse than doing nothing. I think length of time in the business is a big consideration. And 2, are there enrolled agents, CPAs, and attorneys prominent? Do you see their name? Are they willing to put their name out there to show that they're involved with one of these tax relief companies?
Not just an 800 number.
Yeah. If enrolled agents, tax attorneys, and CPAs are buried in the webpage, hard to find, I think that's a sign. But anyway.
Great. Well, let's leave it there for now.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Jay.
Yep.
All right, well, that about wraps it up for our first episode of Welcome to the Resolution. Thanks for joining us today. A couple quick notes. A couple of the pages we referenced from the blog site at watax.com/blog. You can look for a survey of 153 tax relief companies. Also, what's a sensible fee for expert tax help? And 8 reasons to avoid most tax relief companies. All 3 of those pages might be a good place to further delve into the topics we discussed today. Anyway, my name is Stuart. Thanks for joining me and Jay today. You can find us again at watax.com. You can always call us at 1-888-282-4697. If you want to get in touch with us that way, we can always be available if you've got any tax issues you need assistance with. Anyway, thanks so much, and good night.
Hey,